Hello and welcome to video B4 in this series about autodidactic learning objects. The B series focuses on how to use the templates, and this video, B4, we will have a look at the units template, which is an upgrade or an add-on to the practice template, where we've specifically geared it towards training the conversion of units. My name is Jonas Hall, and I'm also known as the Mad Mathematician. So this is what we will see when we open the practice units template. As you can see, it's built on the practice template. If I hit start, I get some sort of conversion task. Convert this into decimeters. Right, I'll type in 29. Yes, I got a point. New task, 80 decimeters. Well, that's 800 centimeters. New task, 30 millimeters in decimeters. 0.3, I guess. Yes, right, okay, so that works just like the practice template, but specifically for various units. How do I know which units? Well, there's a checkbox up here saying select units. Check it and all sorts of things and controls and sliders come into view. Here I can select what units to use from the ones displayed. So I can select meters, kilometers and mil, for instance, and get tasks of that sort. I can change this group of units by using the slider, and I'm using the arrow keys now, and you get different groups of units. Now, as you'll notice, not everything is there, and this is where you come in. You will have to adopt this to whatever you want to be able to do. If you're a physics teacher, you may want to add physics units. If you are a primary school teacher, you may want to add some weight or get rid of some of the more difficult options, etc. You can also select the number of significant figures and the size. As for size, 0 is units and 1 is tens. So if I want to go up to large numbers, I perhaps go up to thousands like this, or I can also go down to very small numbers like that. And of course this is random, so I'm not quite sure what I'll get. Here's one with size -3, for instance. I can click new task and get new ones. Right, so now I only get small numbers. I normally think that perhaps this is quite useful anyway. Number of significant figures can be changed as well. The smallest number can only be 1, but you could add significant figures if you want to. So if you want the pupil to make sure that they can handle the decimal points correctly, maybe you want to add a couple of significant figures to check that. Right, so how do we adapt this? Well, first of all, let's show some things. We will show the algebra window, and I'll expand this to see it properly. I'll also show the input field, which was hidden from view previously. I still can't see anything, so I hit the auxiliary objects button. If you can't see it, it may be because it's hidden. open the style bar by clicking the arrow and then hit the auxiliary objects button, and you see all sorts of things. For instance, this list is a list called U length metric, and if I select it and press F3, a copy of it will get up here in the input field. So what do I want to do with that? Well, let's say we want to make a new list to be able to change between feet, inch, centimeters and meters, right? In that case, let's get rid of the millimeters, so we'll erase that. We'll keep the centimeters, we'll get rid of the decimeters. We will change this to inch and change the value, which is the relative size, to 0.0254, and we will add feet, and the relative size of that is, I think, 0.3048. I'll have to check that later, but let's accept that for now. I'll also need to change the list because I don't really want to get rid of this list. This is a good list, so I'll have a new name for it, and let's call that U-length metric imperial. It turns grey because it's not defined, but once you hit enter you have defined it. Right, but we still can't see it. Where is it? Well, the lists that are displayed when I change the slider are defined in a list of lists called all units. If I want to change that rather than create something new, I need to unlock it first. So I'll right click it, go into the properties, which is a very big window. I'll make that a little smaller, and I will uncheck the lock object, the fix object checkbox. So I can now close this dialog. Actually, I could have just, whilst I had that open, go in and change the definition right here. And what I want to do is I want to add a new list here. I want to add U length metric imperial, and press tab or click in another field to make that stick. Close the dialog, and we should have a possibility to see our new list here. Now don't worry that things may not look as if they're visible any longer. It's just a couple of clicks to show them again. So now we've now actually created a new list, and we can check those, and we get the correct text because that's what we put into it. And obviously with 2.54 in the instructions, you may get quite tricky things down here. So you may want to consider to add a rounding function, for instance, in this template later on. But this is how you add new stuff. And obviously, by changing the definition of this all units, you can erase some of the names here because you're not interested in them any longer. Also, by changing the actual definition of these lists, you can erase things here or make new ones and copies of them and erase bits and pieces, and you can adapt that to your need. So this is the select units template, and it's now currently a learning object for only changing inches, feet, centimeters and meters into each other. If you don't want the student to see or to be able to change units, you may want to hide this logical value, so you can select show object here and it will disappear. I don't want to do that right now, but you can do that. To hide the input fields, you go into show input field. You can hit the auxiliary object button to hide everything. You'll notice that this is still visible, and that's because it was a new object. So I'll have to go into it, to the properties, and mark it as an auxiliary object, and perhaps also lock it. And it's now not visible anymore, and you can hide the algebra window. You can shrink the window to the size you want. You don't want to shrink it down there, because obviously when you get a new task you get this bar down here, and if you get that right you get some points there, so down to there would be useful, or maybe if you get a 10 points, something like that. If you don't want them to select units, you could possibly shrink it up here as well. You can hide the style bar and have something like this for your learning objects. And this works fine as an app almost. It will do only the specified conversions that you have selected. If you want them to select different units, you may actually want to hide only some of these, so you can leave that check mark on, but hide the button, but hide the checkbox, and have only the slider and the units visible, and also hide the number of significant figures and the size controls. So what you show and what you don't show is up to you. And that's how you use this template.